refer back to, you can without
Okay,
and I will record on my side as a backup. Cool. So, yeah, the floor is yours. So talk me through the challenge you've got. So you got your book out. When's your book published? When was it published?
I published it in July, but it was really the end of July, so
Yeah,
it's
that's
two
right.
months. Yeah,
And you kind of did am I right in saying you did a soft launch, didn't you, really?
I did. I launched it. It's the you. I contacted everyone I knew, blah blah. So it made it to bestseller Amazon bestseller list for 2 days, and then
Yeah.
it was off.
Yeah.
So I mean that's so now I did a lot of the media,
Mhm.
but the media is the way I see it from my numbers. It is not something that will increase your sales. It increases an awareness about you, and it's not a sale. I mean, for some who are on one of the major three stations, and they have a huge. It's just not going to push the needle.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, that makes sense. So for
and
you, you really, yeah, I mean, you're in lead generation mode, aren't you? You really need to generate more leads for your program, or leads for
yeah.
your clients and things like that as well. Okay, so cool. So talk me through how you find your leads at the moment. Like, what's the kind of activity, the marketing activity and sales activity you do?
A lot of the activities that I have been doing were in terms of networking,
Yeah.
and in terms of networking on the internet, I mean on Facebook and what have you. And the other thing is create programs. But what I have noticed is also that there is a huge Zoom fatigue. So I had a very successful program yesterday. I had
Mm-hmm.
zero attendance, and I decided, guess what? I go have my glass of wine
Yeah, yeah.
and have a good time. And
Nice.
I will take my program and use it for my Sunday. And what I will do is I'm starting to look at doing it in person. It may be
Mhm.
a smaller market, but if the bigger market is unattended, then it is a zero market. So I will
Okay.
do, I
Yeah.
just, I have to try that
Yeah,
because
sure.
it changed.
Well, there might be something else to try first. So you talked about
Okay.
zero attendance. So was this a paid thing, or was this
That
the
was free. That was free.
free? Okay, cool. There's an interesting challenge here. So
Yeah.
we found this with events ourselves. Sometimes it's actually better to charge them $5 than nothing.
Hmm.
And the reason for that is there's a mental thing that happens going, oh, I've invested in this, therefore I should be invested in it. And we see this a lot. We did this way. I do a lot of work with the Marketing Association. So I was on the
Hmm.
board of directors for that. And one of the challenges we found is every time we ran a free event, we would get like 10 people turn up. Then we'd do a really expensive event, like $3,000 a ticket, and you get the same amount of people turn up. And you're like, mm. And then we did one where we charged like $10 a ticket and we'll be standing room only. You're like, how does this work? And you get a lot of people register for the free one, but they don't show up. So there's a number of things to consider
Yeah.
here. If people don't turn up, it's a number of factors. One of them, are they actually truly invested? And
Hmm.
that's where I'd encourage you to maybe look at
Five.
doing,
That.
oh yeah, either $5 ticket, or the other thing you can do is make it quite so it's quite obvious it's exclusive. So it's like, actually, if you're going to do this, you're one of a small percentage of people that get access to this. So that way there's kind of this feeling of, I probably should show up because it's something special.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is, it's not just Zoom fatigue, it's fatigue in general online at the moment.
Yeah.
So one of the things you need to do is, and this is what I teach a lot of my clients,
Mm.
they like a lot of them. I've got one client, I taught her everything she needed to know about this, but she still went out there, put a post out there, and I said, oh, and she came back and said, oh, that was a complete failure. And I said, what was a failure? And she goes, I wrote this post. It was this amazing post. It was so personal and vulnerable, and I put it out there, and I got people liking it, but nobody did anything. And I went, okay. So what else did you do? And she went, what do you mean? I said, well, what else did you do? And when we reviewed the content, there were two things to notice. One, she never asked them to do anything, so of course they're not going to do anything. But the other thing is, you cannot rely on content, or even people registering for this, to actually be front of mind with them. So
Hmm.
you need a way to bring them to your content, to bring them to your masterclass or whatever
Hmm.
else it is. So a DM strategy is really important, even a
Hmm.
text strategy, like an SMS strategy,
Mm.
email strategy, something that brings it so front of mind.
Yeah.
Like I was part of a conference, speaking at a conference about a month ago, and I signed up as a attendee as well as a speaker, just to see what the experience was like. I got 2 emails a day from them in the build up in the 5 days before it. And even though part of me is going, this is a little bit annoying, the other part of me is going, but I don't want to miss out on this. Yeah, so obviously it's a big build up. There's so much need for this and things as well. So it may be that you don't give up on that. It may be that you tweak it. It may be that you charge the $5, or it may be that you actually get a really good nurture program working behind the scenes to make sure they turn up on the day. So that's something to try.
So what I've looked at is that I will have a Saturday program, 2 hours, $20, charge $20. And what they get for it is the book, autograph book. Maybe I don't do the autograph book because then I can just send it out of Amazon. And they get, I will do a free message reading, throw it in. So, and maybe a 30-minute consult, because that I give away anyway, so it's not exactly a time. So that's a value. But I do need to get them to put some money on the table.
You do.
That's
because that means they commit to it. Yeah, there is. I would say be wary of adding too much to the offer, because like you see this all the time. I had a client come to me who they couldn't get people to sign, but they were like, "This is ridiculous. I'm giving away $40,000 worth of value for only $15, and they're not signing up." And I'm like, because they'll do the same thing I do, which is go, "I don't believe you.
I don't believe you." Yeah.
So what you're better to do is say, I'm giving away a few $100 worth of stuff for $20, or $500 worth of stuff for $20. The moment you start getting into thousands, they're like, that's a little too good to be true. But the other thing is,
you're right. So then, you know what? I would forget about the half hour, because that's time invested. So let this be the 2 hours, because that's plenty. Yada yada. Okay.
So the other thing to do as well is surprise and delight. So you can actually map out a really good kind of thing where you go, okay, look, they sign up for this thing, they pay their $20, they know what they're going to get. They're going to get a 2-hour session, they're going to get maybe the free copy of the book as part of that as well, and maybe one other thing. But then after the event itself, right, you're going to have an ask at the end for them to come and work with you. But the other thing is, you send them out an email that has no ask in it. It's just, by the way, thank you for attending. I thought of you. I've got this, reading or whatever. I've got this thing that I would like to just offer to you free of charge. And you send it out to them, and immediately their brains go, like if you think about neuromarketing, their brains go into that reciprocity kind of mode of going, wow, that was really nice. There was no expectation of anything. And then you follow up, and here's the thing, follow up with another one saying, and by the way, I would also like to give you this for free. And then you come back and say, now that you've had a chance to look at those, I help a lot of people like you utilize these in a way that, you don't have to do all this for you, that kind of thing. So you've actually got to look at what the bigger value piece is there. So the sales piece off the back of that becomes a lot easier.
Okay.
So because you think about it, I always liken it to, I'm gonna use the whiteboard feature here for a moment. Here we go. I love using whiteboards. So the way I kind of structure programs, and you've kind of got this already, right? You have over here is your big ticket item, and that's your one-to-one, right? So big, I don't know why I tried to write there, which is your one-to-one clients. Then you have your group program, which is not as personal. So it's missing a few things from the one-to-one because you don't have all of that, right? So G for group. So that's your medium ticket item. And then you have a low ticket item, which in your case is a $20, right? So essentially it's a tripwire, we call it. But that's your low ticket item. And what these things should be is, like, for example, this group program is basically these aspects of your one-to-one. In other words, it's not the full program, but it's a good chunk of that. So therefore, when they're doing the group program, it's a natural transition to say to them, hey, if this has been really useful for you, the next step would be let's make it really personal. Let's actually let me work one-on-one with you to help you to bring this to life, whatever that is, and then if you look at your low ticket item, that will be one little chunk of this. It'll be that thing there, one little chunk of that. And that way you get, they, and it's got to be something that they get a really good win from. So something where at the end of that, they feel like, I've just done this $20 course thing. I feel like I've accomplished something in there, because in their brain, they're going, I got all of this outcome for only $20. Imagine what it'd be like if I worked in the group program, or imagine what it'd be like even better if I worked one-to-one with them. how much more would that unlock? And that becomes part of your sales pitch as well. So, and then the other idea is down here, is your freebie. I draw it as a cloud. I don't know why. But it might be a freebie, and it might be that you do a free version of your webinar, or it might be a checklist, or it might be something else as well. Something that is a slither of this thing here.
Yeah.
That you can offer them. And then again, it's like, hey, if you found that useful, just wait until you find out how to use it properly. And we've got, for only $20, you get access to this. Then they've done this program now. Oh, imagine what it'd be like if you joined the group program. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So that's how I always try. And so whenever because you've got quite a few different elements in your program, quite a few elements that you're kind of juggling there. One of the things I would do is actually look at how they fit together to make sure there's a really clear pathway through that,
Okay.
I do this with a lot of, so Marketing Association here in Australia and the UK, they have, obviously they have training programs, they do classes. And one of the things that broke my heart when I started working with them is they would do like a advanced diploma in social media marketing or something, or a certificate in social media marketing. You're like, great. And someone would do the course and then go, I'm done, thank you, and they get their certificate and move along. There was no obvious next step. There was no way to say, hey, that's a part of what would make you an amazing marketer. The next step for you is now learn email marketing, or to learn blah, that kind of stuff. So you really want them to feel like they're on a journey. So yeah.
Got it. Yep.
Cool. Yeah. And then the other thing I was going to say to you is, so how do you get people into your, I know they didn't turn up on Zoom, but how do you get them to register? Like, where are you finding them? Is it in social media or networking events or both?
I'm sending out emails I sent a whole number of emails. Then I do it on social media. I do not yet constantly send them the messages on the DM them, because I find there is a fine line become a nuisance. And maybe it is marketing is to become a nuisance, but I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable about that. And
if you're feeling uncomfortable, it's one of two things. It's either spot on the money and you are going to be a nuisance if you do it, or it's your own limitations, and that sometimes happens as well. I just need to be aware of that. My approach to any kind of things like DM is never spam, never ever spam, and always use permissions-based marketing. So in other words, if you were to drop into someone's DM, and you'll see it all the time because people will do this to you, you'll get a DM which is like all this text, everything. I've got this program and you should sign up for this program. I don't even bother reading it. I'm like,
I don't.
Yeah, my ADHD kicks in and I go, bored, shiny thing.
It's not only that, it's too many people, and there's just so much time in a day, and it's invasive. And I find that it's invasive of my time, and I'm going, no, thank you.
Yeah. You can automate some of these things, which is really quite powerful. So you can set up little automation systems. They are complex, so you've got to get your head around them. But one of the approaches I do recommend, and you can do this via social media, is a really good one. Is do permissions based. So in the DM, what that would look like is, hey, Marina, I was just thinking about you the other day. I put together this program that I think would be really useful for one of your challenges or something like that. Let me know if you want me to send you any details. So you're not actually
a good idea. That's asking permission.
That's exactly it. Permission.
I like it. I like that. That I can do.
Yeah, and then also you do it step by step on that as well. So you go, okay, let me know if you want me to send you the details, and they go, sure. And 9 times out of 10, they will actually say yes, because you're not forcing anything on them. So you send them a little bit of detail. You go, let me know what you think of this. I'd love to get your opinion. So again, you're valuing who they are as a human. And then you can follow up and say, actually, we've got a course that's aligned around this. Let me know. Would you like me to send you through the details? Yeah, sure. Blah, blah, blah. And then you can ask them questions off the back of it. So it goes from being a spammy marketing message to now a conversation.
I like that.
That's really powerful. And then to do that, you're right, scaling that is really difficult. You can automate it. But also, if you're talking one-to-one clients, this is more relational anyway, and it should be more relational. So
I can do that. I can do that.
Yes, I like that. And then the other aspect, do you know much about neuromarketing? Do you understand
the decision process of the
brain? Okay. I will give you the fastest crash course you've ever heard on neuromarketing, okay? So essentially, and the reason I'm saying this is because your messaging if you can nail your messaging using neuromarketing, you can actually make quite a big dramatic increase in your impact. And the way we look at this is, neuroscientists looked at all the different functions of the brains with the amygdala and the cortex, or the prefrontal cortex, all these kind of things. And they got really sick of trying to explain what they are, because they go, well, the amygdala, that deals with this, but also deals with that, but sometimes it deals with this. And if that has done this, then that'll deal with it. Okay, it's complex. So what they did is they said, we're going to group together the brain in three regions that are involved in the decision-making process, right? That is the reptilian brain, the limbic system, and the neocortex, right? And these three things are what's involved in the decision. Now, the reptilian brain is that's the most ancient of part of our brain, essentially. It's the thing that keeps you alive. It's the defense mechanism of the brain. So it reminds you to breathe, walk, all the stuff we take for granted. But it's not involved in making a decision. So it's not going to say to you, I want to make a decision on this, but it is involved in opting out of a decision.
Okay.
So, and that's, some people call it the crocodile brain. You'll know yourself when you're talking to someone and they go, oh yes, blah, blah, blah. And I have this program, and your brain's going, I think a little bit sus about this. I don't know what it is, but that'll opt you out of that decision. You immediately go.
Immediately out.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it's relatively easy to deal with the reptilian brain, because we have techniques that will help you to build that trust layer, that know layer, that like layer, the things that are important to the reptilian brain. And some of those are things like testimonies, trust badges, ratings and reviews, but also sharing vulnerability. Like when you're telling stories, you sharing a vulnerability makes their brain immediately go, oh, this must be a safe space because Marina's sharing something vulnerable or personal. Well, okay, I'm not needed right now. You guys are all good. You've got this. So that's the reptilian brain. But the main reason I want to talk is the other two areas of the brain, because this is where most entrepreneurs, salespeople, marketers screw up. Because there's the limbic system, which is sometimes called the emotional core of the brain. And then there is the neocortex, which is the logical part of the brain. And that's the most recent aspect of our brain, yeah? And most people think that decisions are made in the neocortex, in the logical part of the brain, which is why, and if you think about your own decision process, you probably think you make your decisions there as well. Because I know I think I make my decisions there, but guess what? I don't. But that is where you have things like benefits and features and all the different things, like all the stuff you rattled off that they would get for that $20. That is in the neocortex part of the brain. But the mistake that we made is, unless it's a very just nothing transaction, essentially, we don't make the decision there. We make the decision in the limbic system, which is the emotional part of the brain, and we justify that decision, or we rationalize that decision in the neocortex.
Right.
So the limbic system is the part that we really need to nail. And for that, I always use Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because there's two layers to that which very much speak to the limbic system. That is a sense of belonging and a sense of esteem. So in other words, being elevated within. So you basically become part of a tribe or part of a family, but then also you want to stand out as adding more value to that family than anybody else in there. So those are the two layers that very much align with marketing. And I'll give you an example of this. So let's see if we can do this backward. Right there, you can't really see it, but there is a couple of hip flasks there. They're very special hip flasks, right? I saw these on Kickstarter. I'm a massive whiskey aficionado. I love whiskey, right? I saw these on Kickstarter, and they are very special. They're made of really thick glass, not metal, right? Which means that it doesn't taint the taste of the whiskey at all, because the taste can get into the metals. But it also means you can sterilize it very, very easy. So you can change out the whiskey you have in there, which, when you're talking a 25-year-old Macallan, which is worth, $10,000 or whatever, you don't want to be putting that in a hip flask that's just had, a cheap Jim Beam in there or something like that.
God forbid.
Ruined it. So it's really important that it's glass. It's this thick glass. It's in a special shape, and it's got a rubber membrane around it. So if you drop it, it won't ever break, right? It also has a clear slot in it, so you can see how much whiskey's in there, which is super handy. I don't know why hip flasks don't do that anyway. It has a special cork inlay, which helps with the smell and things like that as well, but also very easy to clean. So that is these hip flasks. I saw them on Kickstarter. I immediately bought one, and I immediately went out and told everybody about this. All of those things I just told you now are actually irrelevant. They are all the neocortex logical reasons why you would buy this hip flask. But if I get very realistic, I don't use hip flasks. I never have, right? I've used these twice. I've had them for now 4 years, and I've used them twice. And that was just because we were stuck in New Zealand. I didn't want to take, I had a 28-year-old bottle of Glendronach. I didn't want to take that to Auckland when we went up there because we couldn't travel overseas, but I wanted some really nice whiskey up there for me and my wife. So I just put it in the hip. And I've done that twice. The fact is, it was never about all of the logical reasons because I didn't care about any of that. The real reason I wanted that hip flask, if I get brutally honest, was because of the way I just told you all about that. Because what happens when I'm telling you about this hip flask is you immediately go, oh, Vince knows a thing or two about whiskey. So that ties this product to my identity because I'm very passionate about whiskey. So therefore, you now think of me as a whiskey aficionado. I mean, I literally told you, So when I'm sharing all this kind of stuff, which you go, I didn't know that was all a thing. I didn't know that was important, but Vince knows this. So obviously he knows a thing or two. So not only do I now, not only is it tied to my sense of belonging, because I now belong to this community of whiskey lovers, essentially, but also I'm elevated in the community as well, because anyone that heard that goes, well, you know a thing or two. So that's why I share about the hip flask. That's why I bought them in all reality. So that's kind of what you need to do with this. And I'll give you a negative example of this. One of my clients, when he came to me, he had a program to teach new dads how to dad, essentially, right? And he thought it'd be really funny to basically say, don't suck at dad, don't suck at fathering or something like that. And he got a few kind of dads sign up, but he got very few others, and he couldn't figure out why, because what he was offering was really powerful. It really was. It was really useful stuff. But the problem with that is he forgot about people's identity. And the fact that you're going to, as a guy, if you're going to a program that says don't suck at dadding or at fathering, you're not thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to be amazing. You're thinking everyone's going to think I suck at the moment, and I'm, so he literally just changed one line and said, basically become a super dad.
Yeah.
And
And
everyone
boom,
wanted to be a super dad. And
you
they all
want to
signed
be
up.
part of that tribe. Yep.
Bingo. So for you,
Yeah.
how do you tie whatever it is you're promoting to the identity of the consumer, of the person that you want to get in there? And when you can understand that, and to do that, you really do have to get in the mind of your consumers anyway, your mind of your clients. But when you can understand how to do that, and there's many different ways to kind of draw that out of them, your messaging will be tweaked enough that it will speak directly to them when they're doing it. So
to their heart.
Yep, exactly. So yeah.
That's
That
the
is your crash
story.
course in neuromarketing. There we go.
It's the line, numbers tell, stories sell. And that's
100%.
that's 100% because you're talking to the emotion and not to the
Yep.
rational mind. Then the rational. So I have to find that connection between
Exactly.
that and my tribe. Yes.
Yeah. And then anything you're adding on as value is just
Yeah.
adding to the rationalization of the
Yeah.
decision they've already made. In fact, I'll give you another example. That lightsaber that's sitting there.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to think I'm a very logical person, right? My background's in computer and software and electronics engineering, and computer science and all this kind of stuff. Then got into neuroscience, and then marketing kind of came from all that. But I remember seeing, first of all, I would never buy myself anything new, really. My son, who's 19, he was telling me off. He's like, Dad, you're an idiot. He says, you've got to buy yourself something. I said, well, I can't justify buying the thing I want to buy, which is a toy lightsaber, right? I'm a grown man. Why would I buy a toy lightsaber? Because it's awesome. But I can't justify
That's
that cost,
right.
Yeah. So he told me off and said, look, you're launching all these programs, you're launching all this stuff, treat yourself. And I went, okay. So I thought, right, I need to find the right lightsaber. And I remember I can't remember, I was Facebook might have been or something like that. And I saw this guy playing with this lightsaber on there. And I'm like, immediately I saw myself doing what he did. He had the coolest moves, he had the coolest everything. I'm like, that's me. I want to be like that. That is so cool. It's lame, but it's also so cool in my head, I want to have fun like that and pretend I'm a Jedi. It's going to be amazing. So then I went out and I looked at that particular manufacturer. I looked at all the other manufacturers. I set up a spreadsheet. I put all the columns down. I worked out the cost, the durability, the width of the blade, all these kind of things, looking at all of this. And in the end, 3 of them came out on top, but I bought the 4th place getter out of the 20 that were there. And the reason I bought the 4th place getter was because that was the original one I saw. And that's the one that I immediately saw myself using. So because I had tied my sense of belonging to this particular one, it was always going to be the one that I was going to buy. And by the way, it's awesome. It's a great lightsaber. So yeah. So that's what you need to tap into, is what is being part of your program or being part of your clients. What does that say about them? What is that in fact, not just that, but what do they get from that? And I don't mean what do they get from, like, what do they get as a benefit or a feature, but what is the result that they're going to get? What does life look like on the other side of making a decision to work with you?
I got it.
Yeah.
And
Good.
I'm not addressing that. I'm not
No,
addressing that. No,
don't
I'm
worry.
not.
99.9% of
Yeah,
marketers and entrepreneurs aren't addressing that. So the ones that really do win are the ones that do address it.
I got it. Thank you.
Cool. No worries at all. So hopefully that was useful for you.
Extremely. I will
Cool.
watch this again and again
Nice, nice.
and take the
Well, the
pieces
the
out.
other thing I was going to say is if you need any more support as well. I mean, obviously I do this for a living and I help people like
Obviously.
you as
Yeah.
well. So if you want, I could put together some pricing around support or anything like that. If you need anyone in your corner helping you to bring this stuff to life,
Send it
um,
to me, but it will not happen this year. But it would. I
totally
would
understand.
like to look at it and make a
Well,
rational, emotional decision.
gotcha. Well, what I was going to say is actually I won't send it to you straight away then, actually,
Please.
because if you're not going to make a decision this year, it'll be totally different next year because
Okay.
I'm transitioning a lot of my business right now.
Okay.
So I'm locking in my one-to-one clients at the moment. But
Okay.
what we'll do is we can reconnect next year and
I would like
see
that.
what support you need at that point
Okay.
and see what works for you as well. So
I would
awesome.
appreciate that. Thank you so
Cool.
much. And we see each other
Wonderful.
for the interview.
We will indeed. I'm looking forward to it. Cool.
Same here.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Catch you
Take
later.
care. Bye.
Bye.